You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner with The Wedding Biz, a podcast that provides both education and inspiration for those of us in or interested in the weddings and event industry. And today's episode is a revisit of my first interview of Norma Cohen from 2018 of Norma Cohen Productions. Norma started her company nearly 30 years ago. She has planned numerous events at New York's most iconic spaces and Europe's most luxurious destinations. Norma has never needed to do any PR. It's all word of mouth, and her events are just over the top. This is a really fascinating interview. Enjoy my conversation with Norma Cohen. So, Norma, I've known of your name for a while, and several people I've already had on the show, including Preston Bailey, Bill Spinner of the Pierre. Many people have mentioned you to me, Debbie Geller. And so it's exciting to finally meet you here in New York City. And I want to ask you first, I was looking through your website, and there's a really fun quote on there that I love. It said, Norma Cohen doesn't just enter a room. With her blonde hair, 6-inch heels, bubbly personality, and killer smile, she's a force of nature. I love that. Like, what is that about to you?
It's literally what happens when I walk into the room. I'm always in high heels, even on the job, even through the night.
Oh my God.
And I'd like to be an uppity kind of a person. So I like to be chipper and make everybody around me have fun while we're installing an event.
Yeah. Or
doing an event. Because at the end of the day, I want everybody around me to be happy. So if the leader is happy and positive and excited, everybody underneath will follow suit.
Yeah, I agree. Planner designer really sets the tone for the whole team, just like with any of the partners, right? I think that's really important. I love that you do that. I like that you really make that deliberate. And I'm curious about when all this started to hit you. Growing up, are you from the New York City area?
I grew up in Brooklyn, in the Midwood area.
And yeah,
I was 12 years old, and the girls were being nasty or not nice.
What, at school, that kind of thing?
In school. And there was a building called the Sephardi Community Center that was a place that all of the community members would go, seniors and young adults and kids and parents and yoga and exercise. And I went in and I started planning the 8th grade parties. So I was 12.
What do you think grabbed you at that time at such a young age?
I don't know. I definitely have the genes from my parents. Each one has something that really is great ingredients. My dad is an amazing businessman, and my mom is very creative, and nobody hosts nicer than her. So it's definitely, I have the gene.
Were they go-getters? Were that kind of people?
Definitely go-getters. Definitely go-getters. So when I told my mom I wanted to start working in the center, she was very open to it. And she was always also very open-minded to the fact that I would be going after school to this place and spending many hours there. So after a few years of getting this free experience with other people's money, charity money.
Yeah.
I got the skills to plan events.
But wait. I'm still trying to understand, Norma. At the age of 12, what kind of skills are we talking about?
I would plan parties, and I would plan plays, and I would make fashion shows. It's on a 12-year-old level. I used to have a notebook, and we used to make parties and get-togethers. And I guess I self-taught myself.
So, we're talking logistics, organization, discipline. That just kind of came natural to you.
And I definitely had the advisors watching me. I had young adults that were, watching the path I was going. And then, of course, I started to get people that would join me my age.
Yeah. So now you're talking about not exactly managing, but you're kind of corralling people together.
Right.
What, you're telling them what to do?
Right. And we would do it together. Tasks. So a fashion show doesn't need one girl. It needs 30 people to organize.
Yeah.
Someone to do the stage, someone to do the lighting, someone to pick the models. So that was what I used to do.
That's crazy. You did all that. 12,
Plan a
13?
ski trip, go to a play on a Sunday. And every year I got more and more involved. And then when I was 16, I was put on the board. I was the first 16-year-old female.
Right.
To be on the executive board of the Sephardic Community Center.
Whoa. And were you the only female?
I wasn't the only female, but there were very few.
Wow. And that young.
I was definitely the youngest.
What did the older guys, especially Sephardic, we're talking really like
old-fashioned,
conservative and
it
traditional.
Was definitely, it was against everybody's wildest dreams. People used to call my mom and say, "What are you doing?" She's a young, Jewish, Sephardic.
Yeah.
And it was against all of their beliefs. But my mother believed in me and said, I'm going to let her do what she needs to do.
But do you remember like the challenges that you must have encountered?
I remember them vividly. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm speaking in my community. The best you could be. That's the topic. And I'm going to be talking about the challenges that I faced as a teenager and all of the negative talk that went along with it.
Yeah.
And that I was able to fight it and prove everybody, in my opinion, wrong.
So did you see like a turnaround with the group of people after time?
Well, forward now, yes. I'll get into that in a minute. But do you want me to continue my path after 16?
Sure, would love to hear that. So
after 16, after I became on the board and these men were my mentors, brilliant men, real estate, retail stores, very, very movers and shakers of the community.
Yeah.
At 18, I opened up my first company called Party Expressions.
Come on, at 18?
And I have the chills telling you about it because it really feels like yesterday. And I literally started doing little bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs and little baby girl parties and charity events.
Is this from the experience? And it must have been, right? Because they had seen you work and
I was the only thing in town. There was no party planning, wasn't even anything yet. There were maybe very few that we didn't even know about, maybe very few. It wasn't even a field. And at that time, by the way, let me remind you, my strong points was my organizational skills. I had no design at all.
Yeah.
At all. I wasn't artistic. I was really an event planner. And I'm great with numbers, so my budgets and all that. Through the years, the design aspect came in to play very much.
How did you accomplish that in the beginning? Did you bring on other people who were creative, or you just did the best you could?
I did the best I could. They were small things. They were small things. Yeah. It was just so I was 18. I worked my company for 3 years. I was just about to open up a store in the Jersey Shore for the summer, a balloon store. I was dating my husband and I took him for lunch on June 10th. And I said, are you in or you're out? It's summer. I need to know what's the story. He says, I'll be engaged in a week, but you need to go out of business.
Whoa.
And that old fashioned mentality came into play.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't marry someone that's working weekends and nights. And I call it bankrupt. I lost all my money.
Come on.
I closed the store. I never opened it, actually.
Yeah.
And I got engaged.
Wow.
And I got married in 6 months. And I was miserable bride.
I was going to say, so you were resentful from that.
I was very miserable. I worked for my dad in his apparel company doing his events, but it just wasn't enough. And then an old client called me and said, would you do my husband's 40th birthday? And I went to my husband. I said, Mike, the door's opening again. Can I do it? And he said, yes. And that's when I opened up Norma Cohen Productions.
I see.
And then it was...
Is this your early 20s at this point?
Early 20s.
Okay.
And I had babies and everyone said, what kind of mother is she going to be? I was pregnant till 9 months with each working. And I have great kids today that I think really benefited from the fact that their mother was constantly busy. I worked out of my home. My office is in the kitchen, right off the kitchen. And I think that today they have, I mentored them, but not even knowing.
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters right now, 18 and 21, who have opened up a candy store at the Jersey Shore for the summer. I had nothing to do with it. And the sales are incredible. The decor is incredible. It's just an amazing thing.
Yeah, I believe, I've talked about this on the show before, that when I talk to mothers in particular, I mean, it's really complicated, I have a daughter. I wanted to be the most present father I could be, but I knew still it is so much more complicated for the mother, And so for you to work during that, I think about how the kids, that's all they know, right? They're growing up. They don't see anything else. So they're growing up with this female role model, which I think is really powerful. Really? And also for the boys. You have boys too? You have 4 kids,
I have
right?
2 boys that are teenagers, 27 and 25, and they are real workhorses. They are definitely not going on the normal train that the Sephardic Jewish Brooklyn people do.
Yeah.
My sons went to Wharton, graduated, doing, apps. One son went to work for Apple for a year. Like, they're definitely going through the process, and they're open-minded. And knowing that their mother and father are behind them, it's very helpful.
But Norma, even though, I get all of this and I understand, and we're talking about the role modeling and how much it's impacted them, but as far as building a business, the kind of business you've built, which is highly successful, you're in New York City. I mean, eventually we're going to get to all over the world, but it's intense here, and you're raising 4 kids. How did you balance it?
I gave up certain things as the time went on. Like, I used to be an amazing tennis player. So tennis automatically was no, I couldn't, I had no more time. Then it was exercise. I didn't have time to exercise because I would roll downstairs and I would get to my desk and I would start working.
Yeah.
Lunch with my friends, completely.
Oh, really? Your social life took a hit.
Listen, so I believe in everything in moderation. Mm-hmm. And my motto is work hard, play hard. So I omitted that, the lunch with the girls. It's not a big deal. I'm doing other things. Mm-hmm. I'll meet them for happy hour at 5. But, I'm staying in touch with what I need to do, but that's it. And then, when the kids needed me, you just take less on, or you just manage it better.
Yeah. And I imagine you started to build a staff and all of that.
Yeah, I was just going to say my personal life has a lot of staff involved. That's very helpful. I have a cook at home and I have a living at home. Those things that take up a mother's time, I have someone able to do it for me. Because I said I'd rather be with my kids than actually cook this pasta that will take them 30 seconds to gobble down. Yeah. So I made that decision a long time ago.
So when was your first wedding?
So my first wedding was, I would have to say, 24 years ago, 25 years ago. My best friend, we married a man that had children, and they gave me my first opportunity to make an engagement party and a wedding. And I always tell people that was my lucky charm, because I was able to show people that I was capable to make a first-class wedding.
But how did you know what to do?
Skills. And I just learned. And every time I did a party, I learned from something else. I was the first one to make an engagement party with tents and hanging flowers and chandeliers.
Yeah, I read something about, the engagement party and the wedding. It was the first time lighting was used to change the ambiance of a room. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Do you remember how that came about, the idea?
I realized that if I'm going to put these beautiful flowers in a room, I have to light them, otherwise don't bother. So it's a big part of my company right now, is that lighting is as important as the decor. I
think so too. I think absolutely. Can you take me through your general process now as far as, from meeting a prospective bride and through the end?
So somebody will call me up and they'll say, my daughter wants to get married in June. I need to find a date, and the community is very tight knit. People won't do it on another date. So it's 2 questions. Is it clear on the community calendar? And is it clear on your calendar? And now we got to go get a venue. Yeah. So I meet with them. I get some sort of a budget. I say, okay, with that budget, we could go to A, B, or C venues. And we start the process. Once we find the venue, I produce a budget. I will not enter an event without a full budget that the client is going to sign off on, so that at the end of the day, I didn't redesign this whole party and I'm out of my budget. But
do you build, just for a moment, if you don't mind, do you build in some kind of percentage for last minute or just unexpected things? How do you? There's a
little fluff, but not a lot. Yeah. Because I have, especially today, I have a lot of experience to know around what it's going to cost. I always over budget in each line item. So that's how
you leave a little space.
Because you don't know. And I'll always tell the client, this is what you're telling me you want will cost. If you decided that you want to do a little bit more than that, that's a different story.
Is it, I want to get back to the process in a minute, but is it strictly for you word of mouth, especially because I understand Sephardic community, very tight-knit, like you said. Is there still any element of sales that you've got to deal with?
I mean, I don't want to get like all spiritual and religious, but thank God I don't even have business cards. So I've been word of mouth my whole career. I printed business cards when I started to go hang out with, as my friends, all these other people that do what I do. I was embarrassed that I needed to be able to say, here's my contact information.
But you've never really had to promote.
No, I'm very lucky.
That is incredible.
What sells me is my product. I always tell people, you're as good as your last party.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so let's get back to the process. It's really interesting to me. So you talked about meeting them, talking about the date, which is a little complicated, looking at the community calendar. You get the venue, you do the budget. What's next? Like, how are you talking with the bride about vision and all of that?
I get a list and I start hiring all the people I need. I do a reserve.
Do you have a typical team, or are you always changing it up?
I mean, I'll have 3 florists. I really only have 1 or 2 lighting guys, sound, security, flowers. And I go down the list. We discuss photo, video. I hire everyone. And then I do like a design meeting. I meet with them and we say, what's the feeling you want? Some people want a garden. Some people want modern. And it evolves through the process. Like today, I met with a woman that we were doing an all-white wedding with a touch of black. And I was doing a white chair back and she was away. And I said, could you come over at 8 o'clock this morning? And I showed her a black chair cover. She flipped. She loved it. Yeah. It just evolves while the process is going on.
Well, and you were talking about how in the beginning you had like zero design sense.
Zero.
And you've since developed it. Is it just from experimentation, or did you go, I don't know, do any kind of study, training?
I never went to college. Right now, after a few years, I found that there was an event school that I didn't know about it. I did go to FIT and take window design. And I spent a lot of time doing like projects that maybe helped my skills that I don't really know about.
Yeah.
But literally every time I did a party, I came up with another idea.
And you were talking earlier about, in a sense, reinventing yourself. You said you're only as good as your last event, your last party. So you're constantly challenging yourself?
Myself, and I can't redo something because my audience is the same audience at everybody.
Oh my God. You can't.
I can't. So it's funny. 10 years ago, all the other people that you interviewed used to have clients from all over, and really, they could have literally sold the same table 10 times because nobody knew the difference. 10 years ago, I couldn't do that because it's the same people. It's the same venue most of the time, and it's the same people. But today with social media, everybody's the same now.
That's right.
Because that table in 1 second is all over the world. And no one is going to hire this fancy decorator and going to get the same centerpiece.
That's right.
So now we're all the same. We were never all the same because I always had to come up with something new.
Oh, that's really interesting. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you miss
It's interesting. No, I mean, to me, it's the same because I always have to develop something else. I feel bad for the other people. I'm sure it's shocking. The Instagram is brutal. It's even brutal. Like I get annoyed that before I'm starting a party, it's on Instagram.
Right.
The floral.
Takes away the element of surprise, right?
And even I don't like when the friends of the bride put on Instagram, look, the bride's here. There's no surprise. It's beyond annoying.
So, but do you do much with social media? Do you participate?
I'm a very bad social media person, but I have an Instagram account.
Sounds like it doesn't even matter.
I do it just to be part of the team.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I'm sure it's helping me in some way. Somebody that might be thinking of hiring someone else goes on my thing and says, wow, she's really detailed. Her parties look really finished. She really makes a difference. That's the bottom line. I really am different.
I want to be sure you know the wonderful news of our latest show, Stop and Smell the Roses, with acclaimed lifestyle and event design expert Preston Bailey. Not only will he share the secrets, tools, and technologies behind his extraordinary ability to create a theatrical environment out of any space, you will also discover more about the man behind the magic. Preston will reveal how his focus on personal growth has been the root of his professional success, and you'll have the opportunity for him to answer your questions along the way. Plus, Preston will be inviting onto the show many of the star celebrities he has worked with in the past, so you don't want to miss a single episode. We also have another great show on the Wedding Biz Network, The Business of Being Creative, with host Sean Lowe. Since debuting, his show has really taken off, and he's continuing to bring you the creative business advice he's shared with accomplished industry notables. Be sure to take advantage of Sean's talkback opportunity by recording questions and comments from right there in each episode's show notes. So, if you are a creative who is turning your craft into a business or want to take it to another level, head to theweddingbiznetwork.com and take a listen to Stop and Smell the Roses with Preston Bailey and The Business of Being Creative with Sean Lowe. That's theweddingbiznetwork.com. Can you give me some sense in words of like a personal style? Are you even able to describe that for yourself?
The reason why people call me is because their party will look like them. It's not Norma Cohen's party. It's so-and-so's party. I will design a party that looks like them. I don't always love the party.
Yeah.
But it looks like them and they're thrilled with it.
If you were giving, let's say, a masterclass to wedding planners and designers but they want to get to a much higher level, like what would you tell them about how to do that? Do you have some kind of techniques that you're thinking about in terms of how to getting to kind of manifest someone's personality, or is it just purely intuitive? I
ask a million questions and we go, it's like a therapy class.
Yeah, right.
By the way, it's party planning / therapy because it's a lot of mind. It's a lot of talking with parents that might not see eye to eye. It's the bride and her mother that are arguing. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a husband that wants to spend $100,000 and the wife's taste is $400,000.
Jeez, how do you deal with this? You try to step back, or you get in there?
I get in deep, and then the next, and everybody, my clients, they really notice, and they say, "We can't do anything without you."
Wow. So you end up kind of being a go-between. You're saying,
yeah.
Oh, you must have seen it all.
Yeah.
You have any good stories? You don't have to say a name.
You know what? The biggest turn off, and there's not that many, and the biggest turn on is when a wife respects the husband is the turn on. And when a wife tries to trick him, it's a big turn off. And it happens mostly the way the wife respects the husband. But I'd say I had 10% that they'll say, don't tell my husband.
Oh, really?
And it's awkward. I don't like that. Because I like to be straight.
Yeah. What about a team, during these weddings? I imagine it changes with every party, or do you have kind of a set team that you're using to help run it with you? I mean, who work for you, I'm talking about.
Yeah, I hire 6 or 7 people that come to watch over the family, making sure they're good so I could run the party.
Just kind of follow them around. And
I am definitely not the party planner that has 6 girls with a clipboard and headphones.
Yeah.
I'm on the job. I'm the one. There's no one else that could make a decision without me.
What about handling challenges? Let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, there's always something that goes wrong at a party. How do you feel about that? How do you prepare yourself for these unforeseen challenges?
Okay, so 20 years ago, I was doing a party at Maxine's on 61st and Madison.
Very well-known place, okay.
I was doing a bar mitzvah. It was a Saturday. Yeah. I went to Bloomingdale's to get stockings. The phone rang. Norma, hurry up. You need to come right away. We have a problem. I get to the building. It's complete darkness. From the bottom, 50 feet high, it is dark.
Is this the day of the event?
The day of the event. Right. 4 hours before.
Oh, my God.
What happened? The electrician that came to do the lighting blew the circuit. So I had to get myself together. I was young. I was in my 20s.
Did you first go into reactive mode?
I called up my father, hysterical crying. Oh. He's in real estate. I said, Dad, I need an electrician right away. My party, the lights are out. I need someone right away. Calls me back. Joe, whoever it was, I think his name was Glenn. He'll be there in 45 minutes. I called up the father of the bar mitzvah boy. Keep them in your apartment. I'm sending the photographers to you. Take pictures there. Don't tell your wife anything. I'm working on it. We'll be okay. In the meantime, the caterer is going up and down the steps. And we had Alabina at the time setting up on the dark stage.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, after an hour and a half, the lights went on. But it wasn't a fun experience.
I can't imagine.
We were out of business for a minute.
Yeah.
And I almost gave up. And I was quitting.
Huh.
As I came home, I said, this is too much for me. I'm in my 20s.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. So I was quitting. I quit. And then the next day, one of the men that sat with me on the board of the Sephardic Community Center called me. And he said, could you come to my home today at 4:45? So I figured it was a center-related meeting. And I got there and he said, I have 4 boys and a daughter. my daughter's getting married and I would like you to do the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
They said, oh my God, but I went out of business yesterday. So he said, well, you have to do my daughter's wedding.
So you're back
and
in?
I came home and Michael said, what happened, my husband? And I said, I'm back in business. How can I tell my number one mentor I can't do his wedding?
Right.
And I always talk about when I try to encourage the woman to work and to do that obstacles, you can't quit. You got to make them better. You have to become better from it. And I learned that through experience.
It's funny you said I'm reading a book recently. I keep mentioning it on the show, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It's just talks about almost embracing the obstacle. Like it's it's the perception about it, right? It's the perspective changes dramatically.
So now I don't do a party without an electrician.
Well, okay.
You live and you learn.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, some things happen, crazy stuff. I had a wedding in Monmouth College. You know where the movie Annie was played? It was filmed in the Jersey Shore. It's a magnificent old home. Annie, the little red with the red head.
Sure.
If you ever go see the movie, it's in this magnificent venue, and it happens to be the Monmouth University in the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
And I built a tent to seat 200 people to dine. It was an auxiliary tent. And the police department came, fire department, and they said it wasn't structurally safe.
Oh, come on.
And they closed me down.
Oh, no. What? What did you do?
I moved things around. I got myself together. Again, what did I learn? I don't do anything without an engineer and without somebody telling me a few days in advance that this is going to work.
Gee, enough things go wrong, you're going to have 50 people with you all the time.
Right.
Wow.
But you learn from every experience.
Yeah.
And that's what's always, again, going to put me better than the next because I have all of it.
What about designing, producing, planning weddings, events in New York City versus anywhere else in the United States? I mean, when I come here with my music business, I love it, the energy, the vibe and everything, but my God, it is really different. It's a different energy. Feels way more intense. It took me several jobs long ago so I could just kind of become easy,
It's beyond challenging. I only do it when I have to.
You mean you're mostly outside of New York?
No, to do the destinations. Is that what you asked?
I was asking New York City versus elsewhere.
So destination
I was talking about
is
the intensity
murder.
in New York. Yeah.
But New York is my home.
Well, that's true. That's
I have
all
my
you know.
team here, my vendors here.
That's all you know.
These are my people. They know how I'm thinking, feeling.
I read that you've done stuff at some just outrageous, glamorous locations in Europe and all over the place. If it's so hard, why do you do it? And how do you do it?
Because I have clients that don't take no for an answer, who I adore and love. Mm-hmm. And with enough time, I can figure it out. So I challenge myself, and thank God I had a lot of great destinations that have been really superb. Mm-hmm. It's not my favorite thing. And while I'm going through the motions, I want to kill myself. But at the end of the day, it gives me another check in the box.
Yeah.
I've done London, Anguilla, Puglia twice. This year I was supposed to do Marrakesh, but I knew it wasn't for me. I didn't have enough time. My New York business was very busy. I didn't want that to sacrifice, and I declined it. And, the client wasn't so happy with me. I'm sure they'll never use me again. They were a big client, but I had to do what was right for me and my clients that already booked me.
What do you do about teams, when you're traveling like this?
I bring them. I don't bring my florist.
Yeah.
But I bring my 7-8 people that would help me run the
and
event.
Even like electrician, to certain degrees, but because I've been in some places, especially some of the islands, where my God, talk about some challenges.
It's very challenging. It's very challenging. How about this? I did a very, very big wedding in Puglia in August, and we built on a rock in the middle of nowhere a ceremony stage and a ballroom.
Yeah.
And the week before I got there, we were having challenges the whole time. And the caterer emails me and says, you can leave your 8-inch Louboutins at home.
What?
And you should bring galoshes. And he sends me a video.
No, come on.
Of a tornado.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have freaked out because I didn't even know rain was an option in Puglia, Italy. No one told me it could rain. And it was very, very stressful. But God loves my client, and the sun came out. And we had 7 days of beautiful weather and 21 parties. And it was amazing, but it was really risky.
Can you tell me maybe a story or two of some of your favorite, and let's go stick with weddings, some of your favorite weddings, wherever they were, so a little detail about them that you really think back and you just special for you.
Okay, so one of my favorite weddings was I had a client that was willing to invite 350 people. Now, my clients are not usually like that. They invite 1,000 people. She wanted to get married in the New York Public Library. And they don't allow
I did
more
a wedding there. Yeah.
350 people. And they have a list. And if 350 won't come in, you're out of business.
Really? Okay.
So this client agreed. And, the New York Public Library is...
Oh, it's stunning.
It's stunning, but it has a lot of complications.
Yeah. Especially, let me tell you, with sound.
Everything.
Yeah.
So I went and I hired the florist that they recommend and people that recommend so that they feel at home. And I'm not the only newcomer to this situation. But they don't let you do Jewish ceremonies there. So what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? So there's a restaurant next door that would be okay. Bryant Park, very nice. But the client didn't buy it. They didn't like the idea. So he was pushing to put a stage, a big tent in front of the college, in front of the library. I said, why would you do that? We're taking the library. It's the most magnificent thing you've ever seen. It's part of the glory is the steps. What are you going to put this big, it's a fortune. It's crazy. I have a great idea. The Gotham Hall is on 36 and Broadway. Why don't we do the ceremony there? We'll bus the people back at 6 blocks and we'll have the party in the New York Public Library. And it was amazing. And that's what we did. And coming up 6th Avenue, the sun was setting. It was something else. That was one of the highlights. Of that I just thought it was amazing.
Wow, that's wonderful. And what about overseas? Or are they just all so hard for you?
Overseas was my favorite. I've done a lot of big bar mitzvahs in Cala de Volpe in Sardinia. Forgot to mention. And the Puglia ones and the London ones and Anguilla. And I did a boat. I did the Sea Dream. Did a lot. But my favorite was London.
Yeah.
It was his 40th birthday of one of my good clients. We took 160 40-year-olds, between 40 and 50. We flew them down and we wined and dined them for 5 days without parents, without children. I got the nicest venues in London. It was something you've never seen before. Now, everybody is Orthodox. So the party was on a Friday night and a Saturday.
Yeah.
So I rented 60 rickshaws and I took them on a rickshaw.
Oh my God, 60?
To the Spencer house.
Yeah.
And we had a seated dinner and I rickshawed them back. And the next day, I went to another amazing place called the Arts Club via rickshaw. And it was amazing. And I made it a hat day and everybody had a hat on. And that was my most fun. And I look back and think it was just amazing.
Yeah. Wow. That is real. I mean, what you've done, and I can tell from talking to you, you love this. You've done this so long. Do you still feel the same passion? I love
the new things that are coming my way. And I like the changes. I feel like I'm growing up. I used to do in one certain area. I used to just stay there and used to do 2-3 events. Now I'm doing less, bigger, more boutique. Less is more. A funny story. I used to do flowers coming everywhere and I used to be over the top. And then one day I went to someone's party and somebody was trying to copy me. And I walked into the party. I said, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And I said, but they are trying to be me. And that's ugly. And I changed my whole way about how I do parties from seeing what I don't want to be.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I learned that being overdone is gauche. Being overdone is really not pretty.
And you feel that you were somewhat overdone in the past?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, in terms of how you've changed, what about the industry itself? I mean, we talked for a minute about social media, but we're talking 30 years. I mean, it's changed dramatically. How do you feel about where it's come from and where it's going now? Okay,
so the reason why Preston and I got along so greatly was because I told him that I wanted to write a book and it was going to be called What Comes Around Goes Around.
Okay.
And what's the first perfect example that I could tell you was when I did my first big bar mitzvah party. 30 years ago, it was trees and hanging flowers. And today in 2018, every bride comes to you and says they want a tree and a hanging flower. So everything comes around and goes around in decorating, in weddings, in the menus, and that's what it's about. I'm just doing it a little better now.
Yeah.
I'm manicuring it. I'm sharpening up the edges.
What about the change in decision making? I don't know, maybe in the Sephardic community, it's still mostly parents, but there seems to be a whole different element with millennials coming in. I mean, I hate to label, so I don't really want to say it that way, but it seems that expectations are different, right? People are educated in a different way and maybe not always in the way we prefer. You know, again, they're referring to Instagram, Pinterest, all this different stuff. What do you think about that? Are you noticing a change? Major
change. It's definitely not good when I meet with a bride that wants to be micromanaging. It's not a good idea.
What happens?
The product is not going to be the best Norma Cohen product.
Yeah.
I love, give me the seeds and let me grow the plant. You cannot send me pictures 24 hours a day that have no relevance. Doesn't work. You're taking good energy and you're making it bad. And, every once in a while I get one of those. And, I literally told someone like a month ago, I said, maybe you should call your friends and get a reference on me because this is not going to work like this.
Yeah.
You're asking me if the band will fit on the stage. It's the most insulting thing anyone could ever ask me. I'm Norma Cohen.
Right.
I'm doing this for a long
trust.
time.
Right.
If you don't trust me, you should go hire somebody else.
And is that the biggest thing you see change is more micromanaging?
Yeah, they try. Very few.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong in a nice way with kind of establishing when this starts to happen with a client, right? In a nice way, kind of setting some certain boundaries.
Well, I'll tell the mother, I don't do sisters. I don't do aunts. I don't do a committee. I'll meet with two people. You pick your people. A mother-daughter, a mother-mother, a mother-sister. 3 people, I'm out.
That's funny. You know what? I respect that. To me, if someone speaks to me like that, it grabs my attention and it builds even more trust. I want people to be direct I would want you to be direct with me.
I have no other way.
There shows a confidence. It shows that you know what you're doing. It establishes more trust.
Too much confusion.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Too much cooks in the kitchen. Doesn't work. Cannot make chicken soup with 6 chefs.
So after all these years, can you envision yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Do you think ahead like that?
I thought about changing my career path. And what I really want to do is do undercover hotels and go to hotels and live there for 7 days.
Yeah.
And go to the management and say, this is everything you're doing wrong. Because I'm all about service and the experience. And I get really nervous when I go to these 5-star hotels and everything is just not perfect. And the management will never know because they're not.
That's right.
They're not in the rooms and they're not getting, they're not able to really get the feeling. But I can't do it because I have these clients for 30 years that really count on me.
Yeah.
And they would be devastated if I said, okay, I'm closing up. So I'm not.
So you're sticking around for a while.
Sticking around.
Wow. One last question. This is kind of a big question, but how do you, at this point in your life and your career, how do you define success for yourself?
What the definition of success for me and what makes me the most proud is when I do an event that puts me in the next level. For instance, I matured in the way I handle situations. That's a success. I used to be a screamer.
Oh, really?
I used to scream at everybody.
Yeah.
If I didn't like something, my delivery was poor.
Right.
And then I realized, why would anybody want to work with a person that's always angry and always screaming and nothing's good? So today I have a different approach. I make everybody my friends and I embrace everybody. And if something's not great, I know how to deal with it. I say, maybe that's not so perfect. Why don't we do it this way? That to me is success, growing. I like to live every day to be better. A better businesswoman and a better person and a better mother and a better wife. There's no such thing that everybody is perfect.
Yeah.
So that's my goal every day. And that makes me successful if I could learn every day to be better. Someone that thinks they're perfect, They're living a dream world.
Well, wow, Norma, thank you. This has really been a pleasure. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this re-release of an earlier episode on the wedding biz. If you enjoyed it, please share it with 3 friends or colleagues who you think would also benefit from hearing it. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Wedding Biz. We'll catch you next time on The Wedding Biz.